Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron. Welcome back today to another live stream. Big thanks to everybody for joining us once again. We're joined by Taylor today. I'm going to talk about the European Super League shock. We just done a live stream talking about it then and given my initial sort of thoughts. It was basically a bit of a rant about what it is and why it is and the fact that it's just money generated and money orientated and yeah, we had a little bit of a rant about it. But today we're now going to talk a little bit more specifically about Everton and how it might affect Everton's European hopes for this season, because obviously everything's up in the wall at the moment. We don't really know what's going on. There's been discussions that, you know, those teams that do go and play in the European Super League from the Premier League, i.e. Manchester City, Man United, Chelsea, Liverpool, Spurs, Arsenal, wouldn't be able to compete in the Premier League anymore. They also wouldn't be able to compete in the UEFA competition, so it obviously leaves room to teams that aren't in the European Super League that could then compete in those UEFA competitions, i.e. the Champions League, and Everton fall into that category of a team that would be in and around there. So we're going to talk about it as much as we possibly can get out of it, because obviously everything's very sort of everything's, like I said, up the wall a little bit at the moment and nobody really knows what's going on. We're also going to talk about Everton's European aspirations in themselves, separate to the European Super League, and obviously what the draw against Tottenham Hotspur meant on Friday. And we're going to talk a little bit about Moise Kean and a bit of an update on his future, as it looks increasingly likely that he's going to leave the football club on a permanent deal in the summer. But before we get into any of that, it's been a mad 24 hours, Taylor. What have you sort of have made of it all? Have you caught up on the Super League stuff? What's your opinions on all of that stuff?
Well, I've only just caught up. There's been so much news coming in, hasn't there, the past 24 hours, as you said. I think it was talked about for a while, and then yesterday it just blew up and the confirmation happened where Florentino Perez decided that all the clubs had finally reached that agreement to form the Super League, and my initial reaction was it's an absolute disgrace.
Yeah.
It's just, football's always known as a working class game. It's the saying, made by the poor, taken by the rich.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what the Super League is. It's just a money grab, cash cow, whatever you want to call it. But I just thought it was absolutely disgusting. I've just got it down here. 425 million each club gets just for joining and participating in the league. That's just, it's
sick.
You run out of words. You run out of words, don't you, to express your anger, because where does it leave the Premier League now? Does all 6 clubs get kicked out of the Premier League and TV right money goes? And what does it mean for our stadium? And it's just, it's hard to get your mind around it, really, mate.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I completely agree. And you're spot on there. You said, what's it mean for the Premier League now? Well, I suppose that's the biggest question, isn't it? Because we're sitting here and I was due to do a game review today, and we were actually due to do a game review. We said we'd sit down and we'd talk about the Spurs game, but I'm not too sure how that's going to be approached, because on Friday, my feeling on Friday night and Saturday morning was, is that the last chance Everton have got to really gain some leverage on a team like Tottenham Hotspur, who were in that fight for the Europa League as well? Was that an opportunity for us to, get the 3 points and actually put ourselves in a decent position, and we didn't take it, and should we be disappointed? Obviously now I'm looking at it and thinking, well, depending on what happens with those clubs that have agreed to join the European Super League from the Premier League, are Everton now in a fight for Champions League? Are Everton likely to finish in the Champions League, because those teams behind us that aren't involved in the European Super League are quite a distance behind us? What's sort of going on? And you're right. I mean, there's a Premier League game on today, Leeds United versus Liverpool. I said it in my stream a little bit earlier on. I wouldn't be surprised if that game got postponed, to be honest with you. I wouldn't be surprised if next week's fixtures get cancelled as well, because nobody really knows what's going on. All as we know is, I think, as football fans, is the Premier League and certainly UEFA can't just sort of put it under the carpet and sort of think, we'll ignore it. I mean, it would be quite silly, and I've seen a couple of rumours today, and I've just seen a rumour then saying that UEFA won't ban Real Madrid, Manchester City and Chelsea from the Champions League. They'll still be allowed to compete in it this season. But even that sort of baffles me a little bit. I'm scratching my head, because I'm thinking, well, they've just literally turned the back on the competition. They've turned the back on UEFA. They've turned the back on the domestic leagues. It would be a big statement if UEFA come out and said to PSG, right, we're handing you the Champions League title now. You don't have to play for it, because you're the only team that hasn't agreed to turn the back on us, basically. Obviously, money is a massive driver in this, mate. You know, it's all about money. We've seen football fans from Liverpool, Man United, Chelsea, all around the country and the globe. Certainly, those teams that have agreed to join it, that have spread their disgust. There's a banner currently outside of Anfield that says "Rest in peace, Liverpool." Give our club back or something like that, which was put up by Liverpool fans. There's Liverpool fan groups saying they're going to take the banners down. There's Chelsea fans doing the same, Man United fans. It's all money driven, mate, and ultimately we knew that football was going to come to a point like this because there's been far too much money in it for far too long. But in terms of Everton then, it's a mad one, isn't it? Because I don't know whether you felt the same after Friday, mate, but I was sort of sitting there thinking, I don't know if we will finish in the Europa League now. We've got a difficult run-in coming. You know, it was a difficult game. Obviously, we didn't take the 3 points. We were obviously defensive mistakes, but we were much the better team. Now we're sort of sitting here and there's talk that we might finish in the Champions League. It's all a bit bonkers, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely, mate. You hit the nail on the head. My initial thought after the Tottenham game is we're blowing a massive chance to get on, really push the top 6 again.
Yeah.
I think if we won against Tottenham, we go a point behind Liverpool with that game in hand, where you look at the game in hand and dare me say it, we were back in the top 4 race again.
Yeah.
I know it's a bit unrealistic us being in the Champions League, but now with the rules of the Super League, and if the 6 clubs do get kicked out of the Premier League, I seen last night, we're qualified for the Champions League now.
Yeah.
It'd be us, Leicester, West Ham and Leeds United, and then the likes of Crystal Palace would fall into the Europa League, which sounds absolutely bizarre, but that's just how it is. But as I said, it's just, what's the point in playing in the rest of the Premier League season now?
Yeah.
That was another thought I had. Like, we've still got to play Arsenal again, where you take away what's just happened yesterday. We play Arsenal and they're pushing for the Europa League spot. But now they're safe. They've got a Super League to go to now. But if they win, what's the point of them winning? They've 3 points gaining nothing because you can't get Champions League, you can't get Europa League. They're playing for nothing. Everyone's playing for nothing now.
Absolutely.
What happens if Man City win the league now? They've just gone against the Premier League. Do they get given the Premier League title, or does it get stripped off them? There's just so much questions, and I'd hate that UEFA, FIFA, whoever is behind this, just go hiding now. They made the threats last night. I'd hope they back them up and really just make a show about what they've gone against, and serious punishments need to be done, in my opinion.
That's it. You're spot on. And you mentioned then that there was threats made last night by UEFA and FIFA about those clubs not being able to compete in their leagues, and I think FIFA said that the players of those clubs wouldn't be able to compete in World Cups and stuff like that as well. So you're absolutely spot on. Don't go out and don't make those empty threats. Don't make it we're going to try and say stuff to scare you into not doing it. They've done it now. They've agreed it. And I said before, even if it falls to pieces, which I think it will at some point, whether it's before it kicks off or
definitely
halfway through it will fall to bits. It will fail. When it does, don't allow those owners back into the Premier League. Don't allow those people to buy football clubs again. Don't forgive them for what they've done, because the damage is done now. They've agreed to it. And they've accepted it. Whether it happens or not now is a little bit immaterial, because they've agreed to it. So I completely agree. I think your organisations like your UEFA and your FIFA and your Premier League need to sort of step up now and stamp their foot down a little bit and make a show of them. And making a show of them would be kicking them out the Champions League and giving it to PSG. It would be deducting points in the Premier League. It would be kicking them completely out the Premier League and saying, right, okay, well, you've agreed it. Go and make it happen then. But, ultimately, as we've just said, then money is a driver, isn't it? And if the Premier League kick out Man United, Man City, Chelsea, Arsenal, Tottenham and Liverpool, then maybe they're looking at it thinking we'll lose a lot of money, because fans will then not have that interest in watching the league anymore. It's mad and it's disgraceful that football has come to this, to be honest with you. I'm not going to lie, I sort of seen something like this happening, because there's been that much money in football for a long time and it's become out of control. Financial fair play was a rule put in place to try and control it, but it never worked properly. So I suppose this is what happens when everything bubbles up and it sort of gets to the top and it overflows, and that's what this is. It's the overflow of 10 or 15 years of pure greed in football and people coming in and buying football clubs who haven't got a clue about football. The Glazers don't know about football. John W. Emery hasn't got a clue about footy. Just Stan Kroenke doesn't know about football. He doesn't know about what it means to be a football fan, what it means to be me, Taylor, anybody watching. They don't have a clue. All they know is how to make money, and it's shocking and it's disappointing. And like you said, what's the point in the Premier League now? What's the point in Everton playing Arsenal? What's Arsenal's motivation on Saturday to play Everton? Because they know that if they finish in the Europa League, doesn't matter. Because like you said, they've got a spot in the Super League. If City win the league, don't matter because they've got a spot in the Super League. So what's their players' motivations now? Obviously, we've seen Jose Mourinho sacked today. There's a lot of journalists who are adamant that he was sacked based off of results. I don't believe it for a second. I really don't. I know they'll come out and say it was, obviously, but I honestly think Jose Mourinho stood up and walked. I mean, he was brought in to win a trophy. They haven't won a trophy in however many years. They get to a final, they're a week away from a final, and they sack him. Not a chance if they sacked him based off results. Even if they sacked him after the final, I'd say, right, okay, potentially, but they haven't sacked him now. He's walked because of what's happened. Can you see other managers doing that? I know Jurgen Klopp, obviously, who's the manager of them lot across the park. I know he's spoken against the European Super League before, and now he doesn't want it to happen, and now he thinks it'd be a bad move. Can you see players and managers now of those clubs turning up and saying, actually, you know what, I don't want to be part of this, so I'm going to go and join somebody that's not involved in it?
Yeah, 100%, mate. I think you've just said the next name that everyone's going to be looking at now, Jurgen Klopp. I think tonight he's going to be bombarded with questions over it because he has stated it publicly. It's going to be a disgrace. I think he said, who wants to watch Real Madrid v Liverpool every game, every week for the next 10 years? Who wants that? Because I know it's a bit off topic, but the whole point of the Champions League is for those special nights. It's you wake up on a Tuesday, Wednesday morning knowing that Bayern Munich are going to play Paris Saint-Germain like last week. You get it every now and then. How boring would it be to watch Real Madrid v Barcelona every single week? It'd be horrible. But yeah, I think Jurgen Klopp would be the next name where everyone looks at and goes, he could walk here. I've seen a few people say tonight could be his last game. I doubt it, but it'll be interesting to see how that develops. And on players, I touched on it previously on Twitter with someone else. A lot of these South American lads who are going to be at the Super League, their main goal in life is to play at the World Cup. It's their aspiration. It's they dreamt about as a little kid. Are they really going to let club football get in the way of that? No. They will look to leave, I think, some of them. I can't name off the top of my head because I know Neymar and that aren't in it. The PSG have refused to go in, but some clubs will. Some players from the big clubs that are in the competition will look to leave. And touching on Jose Mourinho as well, I agree, Cam. If it was results based, why wouldn't he not have been sacked after the Everton game? On Saturday. Yeah. Why would he not?
Exactly.
There's no coincidence. The news broke out last night and Mourinho's gone today.
Yeah.
No one can tell me for a fact Jose Mourinho's walked in there and just plain refused to do this. Jose Mourinho loves football and he knows what's best for football and he knows this Super League isn't the way forward. And I believe he's just took a hit and left Tottenham.
Yeah. Oh, I agree, absolutely. I think you're spot on, and you're right there. I think we're going to need players to stand up against it. We've seen the likes of Marcus Rashford who in the last 12 months has stood up against a lot of bad things, and rightly so, and it'll be really interesting now to see which of those players stand up against it. People like Jurgen Klopp have got nowhere to hide. I don't like Jurgen Klopp. He manages Liverpool. I don't like Liverpool, but I'll have a lot of respect for Jurgen Klopp if he turns around tonight and he's asked about that and he says my opinion still is the same as what it was back then. I don't agree with it. I think it's going to be boring and I don't like it. I'll sit down and I'll go, do you know what, fair play for coming out and saying that. If he hides it and he says, oh, it could be a good thing, then it's clear that he's just a yes man for whoever he's working for. But I do think you'll see a lot of players, I do think you'll see a lot of managers turning around now and saying, no, I don't want to be part of it. Ryan's donated £5 to this team. Big up, Ryan. He says, couldn't agree more with what you said, Cam. It's great to see all football fans stand with each other and have the same view on this. We will go into talking about Everton in a moment, Taylor, and what it means for Everton and what it means for the rest of this season, really, for Carlo Ancelotti, because his goal has always been, to finish in the European position, and that's where Everton want to be, and that's where Everton want to finish. So I do want to talk about where his mind will be at sort of at the moment. Is it just purely focus and pretend it didn't happen, or is he maybe looking and thinking, right, this is the structure the league's going to change? But let's talk about the German clubs before we do that. James Rodriguez says the idea of business is to destroy your competition. That doesn't work with football. Fans should own 51% of their club like in Germany. He's spot on there, by the way. It is a business, and the idea of business is to basically for the richer to get richer and the poorer to stay poor. We've seen, you mentioned PSG then, we've seen Bayern Munich, Borussia Dortmund, I think RB Leipzig as well, all have practically turned around and said no. I seen on Twitter then that Schalke have joined, but I'm not too sure how reliable that was because they're currently
I can't see that. They're going down, aren't they?
Yeah. They're bottom of the league, so I'm not sure what make Schalke a European superpower. But anyway, what we know so far is the two big hitters in Germany have said no, and the other sort of bigger club in Germany, in Leipzig, have also declined it. We also know that German clubs are owned 51% by the fans, so even if their millionaire, billionaire backers and their players and their manager and their coaching staff say, yes, we want to play in it, if the fans say no, then it's not happening. Is that something you think that English football certainly should adopt now going forward, in terms of, obviously, as fans now, we have to take the power back. We simply have to take the power back at our football clubs. Is that model something that you'd be happy to see employed in English football, where it's not you can have it, but it's imperative, it's absolute? You've got to have 51% of your club owned by the fans.
Yeah, definitely. Fans are the reason football is what it is, not money, not these Americans coming over buying clubs. It's the fans, working class people buying tickets, season tickets, going the game, sitting there for 90 minutes. That's what football's about. I have big respect for Bayern Munich and Dortmund for just laughing at the Super League and saying, no, we don't want to be part of this cash cow. It's not us. But I think the government have came out today and said they're looking at the idea of bringing the 51% in for English clubs, which is going to be massive. It's the way to save football, in my opinion. If fans can get a say over the greed of businessmen, then I think football will be a much better place, in my opinion. But it is something that we've got to look to adapt.
Yeah, I agree, absolutely, I agree. And like you said then, it would stop situations like this, because Liverpool would be able to say to FSG, no, we're not doing it, we don't want to do it. Man United fans would be able to say to the Glazers, no, we're not doing it, we're not going in, shove it. And yeah, like I said, big respect to the German teams for doing that. And obviously the German model is excellent. I've said it for a long time. The German model's brilliant. I don't think it'll be employed in this country, because there's too much. It would lose too much money. But yeah, I agree 100%. Well, on to Everton then, and specifically about Everton and how this affects us as a football club. Obviously, Carlo Ancelotti, like I've just said, his aims for this season were to finish in the Europa League. It could be, now again, we don't know what's going to happen. Look, I wouldn't be surprised if the Premier League said to those 6 clubs, you're gone, you're not competing ever again, certainly not for the moment, you're gone, and they just delete them off the bloody table and that's it. But I also wouldn't be surprised if they allowed them to finish the rest of the season and it was almost like nothing happened. So we don't know. Everything's up the wall. We don't know. What do you think will be going around in Carlo Ancelotti's head at the moment? Do you think he'd be sort of thinking, you know what, just sort of, that's nothing to do with us, so forget about it, we just need to focus on winning games? Or will that thought of, hang on, maybe we've got a bigger chance of finishing in the Champions League now because of those clubs that are going to leave the league at the end of the season?
I mean, the Champions League potential going into it next season will play on his mind, 100%. It'll play on anyone's mind, but we've got to go into this uncommon weeks with the mentality that nothing's changed. Yeah. Doesn't affect us. Let's go and beat these teams. I'd love us to turn up to Arsenal and absolutely just dominate them now. Yeah. Show them you've got your own league now. Leave us to it, and I hope we. I mean, I can't say the words, but I just hope we steamroll them, honestly. Because it's arrogance and ignorance. I can't. It's just.
It's shocking, isn't it?
Yeah, it's hard to find the words. I'm stuttering right now because you can't think of the correct words to say, because it's just cowardice.
It is. Yeah.
As I said, the mentality from Carlo Ancelotti is, let's just go into each game and take 3 points. Let's not this Super League affect us. We're here to play. We're here to represent Everton, and we're here to represent the pride of Merseyside. I felt proud last night as an Evertonian about this news. Yeah. I believe Everton, if we were in this position, we'd say no. I really do. I think the people in the backroom staff, the board, they're spot on. I think they'd say no, but our mentality has got to be go and dominate these games. Let's just pretend nothing's changed and let's make a final push for Europe. Whether it happens, we don't know, but yeah, that's what my mentality should be.
No, I agree. I think you're spot on. And yeah, like I said it before myself, I would like to think that if Everton were approached for something like this, they would turn it down and turn it down quite abruptly. Obviously, we don't know. I mean, you said Steady's donated £5 and says, greed, Iranian billionaire owns your club, debate me please, you hypocrite. Why do you support the Premier League? I don't support the Premier League, I support Everton. And I said before on our stream, Everton aren't innocent in the sense of what football has become. Everton have spent £500 million in the last however many years. Everton have brought in players for stupid amounts of money that are absolutely dreadful. Everton have paid average managers a lot of money who haven't been successful. I'm not saying that Everton... I think the thing with this situation is that there's a lot of people to blame. I think it was quite interesting to see Sky Sports take the moral high ground yesterday in, all of this. It's awful, it's this, it's that, the other, when they're, a company who have been putting in however many millions and millions of pounds into the Premier League in the last 10 or 15 years. They created the top six. They created this thought of the best six teams in the league. They're not the best six teams in the league. Tottenham aren't in the best six teams in the league. No. They're dreadful. Arsenal aren't in the best six teams in the league. So Sky, I think, and companies like that, and television companies who put hundreds of million into the Premier League every year, they have to be accountable. UEFA have to be accountable for the Champions League not being, what it should be, certainly given the money it makes. FIFA, again, same, we've heard all the stuff about FIFA in the last sort of few years or so. So I think there's a lot of different elements and there's a lot of different people accountable. But what the general sort of situation is, Taylor, is it's the fans versus everybody, isn't it? No matter whether Sky are innocent, whether the football clubs that aren't involved in the European Super League, i.e. Everton, are innocent, whether the Premier League's innocent, whether FIFA are innocent, it doesn't really matter, does it? Ultimately, it's fans against these billionaire football club owners who just only have money in their interest. And ultimately, like I said, it's sickening, isn't it? And for Everton, I completely agree. Like you said, I think Carlo Ancelotti has to put it to the back of his mind and he has to sort of just think as if it hasn't happened and think, you know what, we just need to go out and beat Arsenal as if Arsenal are a fellow contender for Europe, and hope. The hope is, and I think it will be like this, that Arsenal's mentality will be a little bit different on the weekend, because what are they playing for? What are they fighting for? They're not fighting for the place in Europe, are they? They've already got one. They're not fighting for the Europa League. They don't need to be in it. They're not in it. I think they've turned around and stuck their finger to UEFA as well. So, but Everton's mentality, you're right, has to be absolutely the same, and ultimately we have to we have to turn up and win these games of football. It's different. It's going to be a lot different. Talking about Tottenham then, obviously, it was a much better performance than what we've seen in recent weeks. However, it was still disappointing. 2 defensive mistakes, missed chances. Is the Arsenal game one that you look at and think we absolutely have to be going into and winning, regardless of whether or not these teams get kicked out and we finish in the Champions League? I would still like to finish in that top 7, because ultimately that was the goal for this season, isn't it? And do you think this Arsenal game is pivotal for doing that?
It's a must-win, mate. Simple as.
Yeah.
I do feel a bit sick and tired of saying it's must-win every week, but it is. Got to remember, Arsenal are catching up now.
Yeah.
They're not a million miles off us anymore. I think they're about 6 to 7 points off us now. If they win, it's 3 to 4 points. And if we are using that mentality of nothing's changed and we're still fighting for Europe, then we've got to go out there and win. Going back to the Tottenham game, I thought it was a really good performance as a whole. It was a lot better than what we've seen previously at home. Some of our home performances this year have been absolutely diabolical. But we played nice, calm football, transitioning really well, playing off from the back comfortably, and it was just 2 clown errors. I don't know, you can both are to blame, in my opinion, Holgate and Kean. Obviously, people tend to side with Michael Kean was more at fault, Moise and Holgate was at fault. I think both have got to do better, but as a whole, it was a most complete performance, and there was a few standout players for me. James Rodriguez, I think Twitter must have blown up. Everton's Twitter about just everyone raving how good he was. I think, in my opinion, he's the best player I've ever seen play for Everton, technically.
Yeah, he's
I don't think we'll ever get better. I thought Sigurdsson stood out really well against Tottenham.
Yeah. Got
the 2 goals, 86% passing accuracy, which was a high. Only James had a higher. And he was joint with Allen, so it was a good performance, and Super Stato will be loving that one. If you know who he is. Thought Allen, not many people talked about it, and I've seen you tweet about it, Cam. Allen was fantastic. And it's someone who's going to win us the game against Arsenal, because Ceballos, he's really poor for Arsenal. And Allen can press that, go hunt the ball. I think he had 7 recoveries against Tottenham. And I think Tottenham got a better midfield than Arsenal, definitely, in Højbjerg and Ndombele. So if Allen could occupy them 2, I'm sure he could occupy Thomas Partey and Danny Ceballos. But going on to the Arsenal, their weaknesses, I think we've got to exploit their fullbacks. I think they're poor down the left back and right back, especially with Tierney being injured.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you agree, but I'd love to see Seamus Coleman start on against Arsenal. I think him and James could really exploit that left-hand side if Cedric ends up playing there, because he is a nasty right-footed player. If Hamed can make those inverted runs and cut inside, with Calvert-Lewin coming back, we'd be open to a lot more crosses, and Coleman can overlap. So you can go 2v1 against them. And I do think, as a unit, Arsenal defend well. I think they're quite low for goals conceded this season, but individually they have errors in them. Gabriel has errors in them. We've seen it last game where he gave the penalty away. I think if you isolate them individually and you put Calvert-Lewin and stick him on David Luiz, you stick him on Gabriel and isolate them, you have Sigurdsson and Richarlison running off them. I think we could have a good result on at the weekend, mate.
Yeah, no, I agree. I echo exactly what you've just said. I think you're spot on there. Look, Arsenal are a team that have had a cagey season. They've been quite up and down. Obviously, the last game against Fulham, it took them a last-minute equaliser, which arguably was... could have been given offside on another day. But ultimately, again, they're a team with quality, and they're a team that can hurt. They gave us a difficult game at Goodison earlier on in the season, and we beat them, but I remember that one, they had a chance in the last couple of minutes, which Jordan Pickford, I think, made an unbelievable save, and if that had gone in, they'd have taken a point out of that game. So, ultimately, for Everton, like you said, it is a must-win, and I'm the same as you, Taylor. I'm getting sick of saying this is a must-win, that's a must-win, we have to win this game, because it's boring me now, because everything seems to be a must-win. And what I just hope, Taylor, in discussing this European Super League stuff, I just hope that the Everton players' mentality doesn't drop a little bit. I hope that we don't become complacent, because we've already seen at times this season these Everton players don't need an excuse to become complacent. They've been complacent at various times. Fulham at home, Leeds at home, Burnley, West Ham, Newcastle twice. These Everton players on a number of occasions at times this season have become complacent and have been complacent, and they don't need an excuse to be complacent. So what I would hate to happen on Friday is for Everton to turn up and ultimately for us to be sort of thinking, these, Arsenal aren't in the Europa League next season, they're not in Europe next season, well, certainly not any UEFA competitions, and they might get even kicked out the Prem, so it doesn't really matter what happens here, because we're probably still guaranteed a European place anyway. I'm not saying that will be the case, because I don't think that'll be Carlo Ancelotti's mentality, but I just think this opens a little bit of space for complacency for those clubs that aren't part of that European Super League. Certainly clubs like Everton, who now are looking at it thinking, well, could we even finish in the Champions League? Could we be playing in the Champions League next season? So I just hope that there's none of that, and I hope we turn up. And ultimately, I think what we have to take from Tottenham, mate, is that it was a better overall performance. We pressed Tottenham. We didn't sit back. We didn't wait to hit them on the counter-attack. We pressed them. We actively went out. We created opportunities, like I said. Okay, we talk about the defensive errors and the defensive mistakes that we made, but James Rodriguez has a shot earlier in the first half that he could score. Josh King had one when he come on. Richarlison had a chance to win the game. We actually actively pressed Tottenham, forced them into mistakes, forced them into losing the ball when they had possession, and we attacked. And we showed, didn't we, on Friday, that we can do that against the teams that, alright, Tottenham aren't one of the best teams in the league, but they're certainly in that sort of fight for Europe in which we are. Well, they were before all of this happened. Trying to put aside what's happened, because it's mad to talk about what's happened and this, because it just makes no sense. But we showed that we can do it against teams like that, and ultimately, Everton this season, mate, we've performed against the better teams, haven't we? We've performed against the usual top six. Somebody, I think it was L Brentland is his name, I think, on Twitter. He tweeted out yesterday, trust Everton, the top six, in inverted commas, teams to leave the Premier League, just as Everton become actually decent against them, and we're still losing at home to the likes of Fulham and Burnley and Newcastle. It's
a nightmare for us, isn't it?
It is.
You get the likes of Brentford will come up next year and probably thump us 4-0.
Yeah, I got Goodison, they will. They'll do the double against us. But that's it, isn't it? We shown on Friday that we can turn up and we can perform against the better teams in the league, or certainly the teams that are in and around us, and it has to be the same on Friday against Arsenal.
No, yeah, it is. As I said, it's a must-win. But if we can go out, it's away as well, which is important. Our away record's really good. It's one of the best in the league. Yeah. Be interesting to see how we do line up. I know you touched on the home game now. We line up with that solid back four, didn't we? With Holgate being right back, Godfrey left back. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see if Carlo looks at that again, because it did work. I think Ben Godfrey, that's probably his best game he had for Everton this season against Arsenal. He stopped Pepe. I know Pepe scored the penalty, but he did nothing all game. He couldn't get on the inside. He couldn't get on the outside. And Maitland-Niles at right back struggled think there's a video where Godfrey just bombs forward in the last 10 minutes and gets us a corner, and it might be something he looks, maybe he plays Digne on the wing. I mean, you don't know what Carlo Ancelotti's going to do at the end of the day. It's always guess the formation, guess who plays, but there are a few players who can hurt us though in that Arsenal side. I think it's Lacazette out. I think he got injured. Is he?
I don't know if he's out confirmed, but he got injured yesterday, didn't he?
Yeah, well, he's a player I look at who can cause us problems. He's in good form at the minute. 17 goals in all competitions this season. Only Calvert-Lewin has more out the two sides. Bukayo Saka's a fantastic player. He's been one of the players of the year for the youngsters. He's been up there with Phil Foden. He's been terrific. Maybe they play him left back, and it gives us a question to think: do we play Coleman and get at an experience? Because he's an experienced winger, Saka, but I feel like he's an inexperienced left back in a back four.
Yeah.
So maybe we do play Coleman. But touching on like the summer window, these are games where you look at it and go, they've got no left back at Tierney. It'd be so perfect if we had a Max Aarons in there, or we had a right winger. I know people talk about Lozano or Leon Bailey. Leon Bailey scored a fantastic goal the weekend where he gets at it on the right wing, cuts inside and scores. And you just look at that and go, players like that win us games on against Arsenal away. So it'll be interesting to see how we line up. But hopefully, mate, we can get out there, get the 3 points, and sod these off to the Super League.
That's it. Wave them goodbye, mate. That's what I'll be doing, waving them goodbye. But no, I agree. And you mentioned Seamus Coleman as well before. Being excellent in recent weeks. Last 3 games, he's been absolutely fantastic. His assist on Friday for Gylfi Sigurdsson's second goal. As much as it's an unbelievable finish by Gylfi, it's a fantastic assist. It's a brilliant ball in. And he's been, he's been very, very good recently. So I would like to see Seamus. Do you think then Carlo will sort of stick with the 5 at the back? Obviously, we've seen it a lot recently, but we've also seen how personally for me, Taylor, I don't know if you feel the same. I don't think our centre-backs can play a 5 at the back. I certainly don't think Michael Keane can play a 5 at the back, and as much as it might benefit us going forward wing-back wise, I just don't think it benefits us defensively whatsoever. So would you like to see us revert back to a 4, or can you just see Carlo going with the back 5 again?
I think we need to go to the back 4 if we want to get some results here, mate. As you said, I think Michael Keane's horrendous in a back 5. He just doesn't look comfortable in there. Ever since we go there, he presses high quite a lot in this back 5. It happened, I think it was the Crystal Palace game. He pressed too high and Batshuayi slipped inside and just goal. And you can't do that in the Premier League. Everyone knows you get punished for mistakes like that. I think Yerry Mina's more comfortable in that back 5, back 3. And so is Ben Godfrey, because Ben Godfrey can play out wide a little bit. But I don't like it personally, the back 5. I think we allow teams to get onto us with it, and we're not good enough to hold out leads.
Yeah, absolutely.
Seen it against Palace, obviously. Brighton, we looked a bit shaky defending. I think we'd lose if Ben Godfrey and Yerry Mina weren't playing that game.
Yeah.
Obviously, Mina went off injured, but he makes a fine block to stop. I think it's Neil Maupay for a shot, but absolutely. Arsenal like to play 4-2-3-1, so I'd like to match them, whether we go 4-2-3-1 ourselves or 4-3-3. And I'd like to see Tom Davies and Allen in the midfield. I thought, we're going on the Tottenham game, they dictated the midfield comfortably. Davies was good on the ball, he was giving it to our better players, allowing Gylfi and James to get on it, and Allen was just, he's a workhorse, isn't he, really? He's always in the right position at the right time, and that, as I said before, that can hurt players like Ceballos, who they're vulnerable at being out of position. They're not good enough to stick in that double pivot if he's with Partey, and I watch Arsenal a lot, and Thomas Partey is doing a lot of the work for them, but I'd like us to play a flat 4 and just play the ball down the wing and get Gylfi to drop off. Sort of like a false 9, but he's in the 10 role, but he drops off a lot in the edge of the box, and there's going to be goals in it for us. But yeah, the back 4 is the way forward for me, mate.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And you said there's going to be goals, and ultimately Everton have to take our chances. I mean, we've seen 3 games in recent weeks. Brighton is getting discarded because I think we had 1 shot on target. But Palace and Tottenham are certainly 2 games in which we had a plethora of opportunities. I think we had 10 attempts in the first half against Tottenham. We had something similar against Crystal Palace as well. We had better attempts against Crystal Palace, I felt, but we still had opportunity after opportunity to win those 2 games, and we didn't come away with the win. So we need to be a lot more clinical. The hope is that Dominic Calvert-Lewin will be back for this game. Carlo did say after the Tottenham game, or before the Tottenham game, sorry, that Dominic Calvert-Lewin should be back for the Arsenal game. Hopefully he's got his shooting boots on, because he himself has missed some sitters recently. But no, I completely agree, mate. I do. I think ultimately this is it's another must win, and it's another game that we can win if we get at them. And I agree about the back four as well. I think back four is definitely the way forward. I just think every defender, barring Ben Godfrey, who's excellent wherever he plays, I just think every one of our defenders is more comfortable in a back four, including both fullbacks are doing. Although again, it mightn't give us as much going forward. I just think we're a lot more solid defensively, and hopefully, I know Yerry Mina won't be back for this one, but hopefully he's not out for too much longer as well. We will go on to talk about Moise Kean in a moment, mate. I know we said we're going to talk about him. We'll get in the comments before we do that, and I do want to talk a little bit more about Everton's European ambition for this season, because it has been shaken up. Everton Azul says, Barry says, it doesn't matter what tax havens they are in, that's not the problem. The problem is a divine right to play in a new version of the Champions League, not qualifying, etc. It'll fail. I agree. And as Taylor said before, I completely echo what you said, mate. I think you're spot on in what you said. Is obviously Everton, and we're probably going to say this and get a load of opposition fans. You wouldn't know what it feels like. You support Everton, blah, 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 blah.
God, you hear it all the time, don't you, off them lot?
Yeah, that's what I know. That's what I mean. So, but what Taylor said is absolutely spot on, and that was that the Champions League is so special, the Europa League is so special, is because when you play Bayern Munich, when you play, they were a bad example, they're not in it, when you play Real Madrid, when you play, Barcelona, when you play Juventus, if you're Barcelona and you play Liverpool, those games are few and far between. Those games are games that, again, you play every now and then, and you have to qualify for. You have to earn your right to be at that level. You have to deserve to be there by winning games of football, by finishing high in the league, by having a really good team, getting through the qualification stages. What's the point in that if it's just automatically given to you? It takes all of the competition elements out of it, which is what they want to do anyway. It takes all of the interest out of it, and it takes the fact that it's a competitive competition then, and it's just boring. As Taylor quite rightly said, mate, she said, it's just boring week in, week out. Everton Azul says the fact that Americans do not understand the concept of relegation is the reason why the MLS is such a mediocre league. He also says, Cameron, great job on your stream today. Big hugs from us at Everton Azul. Thank you very much, mate. Really, really do appreciate that. Honestly, it means a lot. Peter says, ESL, European Super League, no relegation concept is based on certain American leagues by certain American Prem owners. Everton Azul says, I hope Everton never gets to the point where they feel so above every other club. Everton's the people's club, and that's the reason I love Everton. I think we're all the same on that one. L2 says,
sort of like a divine right, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. That's what it is, and that's ultimately why they've knocked the UEFA on the head, because they have a divine right to think we should be doing this every week. We should be playing these every week. We shouldn't have to qualify. We shouldn't have to finish high in the league. And it was the same with Project Big Picture, mate. They, those clubs involved in that thought they had a divine right to, run the league. No, why are we allowing? I mean, it's mad that those owners who clearly haven't got a clue about football run football clubs. That's mad for a start. And the other mad thing is that they're now going to be running a league and a competition. It's crazy. L2 says Vamos Everton Azul again says it's abhorrent what these so-called top clubs are thinking about doing. I hope they get penalised for even thinking about it and colluding in secret. Yeah, me too, mate. I really hope they do, but I don't think they will. And Robbie says UEFA Alexander Keferin confirms the players that will play in the Super League will be banned from playing in the World Cup and Euros. They will not be allowed to play for their national teams, from Fabrizio Romano. There you go. Yeah, I'm not surprised by that one either. No surprise there, is it, mate?
No, it's, as I said, FIFA and UEFA are against it completely. And with the Euros this summer, it was always interesting to see, would it affect the Euros this summer? And as the comments just said, it does. So it's, and we touched on it before about players leaving. You look at Cristiano Ronaldo, who's Portugal's talisman, greatest ever player. Lionel Messi, Argentina's greatest ever player. What do they think of that? They're not going to represent their country at the biggest stage in world football. Be interesting to see if Ronaldo does take the decision to leave Juventus now. But then you wonder, where does he go? Because all the other big clubs are in the Super League, bar Bayern Munich and PSG. Does Ronaldo go join Mbappe and Neymar now? It's going to open up a lot of interest in the summer if players were to leave, but no surprises from me.
That's it, mate. I completely agree. Again, I think you're spot on. There's going to be a lot of transfers this summer, and I think there's going to be a lot of players that turn around and say, no, I don't want to be restricted to just playing in one competition. I want to play for my country. I want to be able to play in a league that's competitive. I want to be able to play in a European league that you have to qualify for and you have to earn the right to be in. Look, ultimately, let's just pick an example out there. You mentioned Cristiano Ronaldo there, great example. Cristiano Ronaldo now is going into arguably his final period as a footballer. He's at that age now where he, as much as it's hard to say and we don't want it, he's not going to have long left. Is Cristiano Ronaldo going to jeopardise his last chance to win a World Cup with Portugal for the sake of playing in a European competition that he's playing the teams that he'd be playing every year anyway, because he's always in the back end of the Champions League? Is Cristiano Ronaldo going to say, do you know what, I will happily never play for Portugal again in a World Cup environment? Cristiano Ronaldo wins the World Cup, by the way, is arguably the most decorated footballer of all time. I think he'll have won everything then. World Cup, Euros, Champions League, Premier League, La Liga, Serie A, everything he can win, he'll have won then. And it's very hard to argue against that, him not being the best player ever to have lived with that resume. Is he going to miss up on the chance? Because he hasn't got long left in his football career, whether we like it or not. Is he going to miss up on the chance to play in his last World Cup to go and continue at Juventus in this silly Super League, which is a nonsense? I don't think he is. Are players that are young in their career, like you mentioned then, there's going to be a lot of players that play for those clubs that want to aspire to play in World Cups, that want to win World Cups, that want to win Euros. Are they going to then turn around and say, you know what, I'll stay here and I'll jeopardise the rest of my career? No, I think they're likely to move. PSG, I read today, are willing to, well, they've basically told the European Super League to do one, and they're going to confirm Neymar and Mbappe new contracts, and Mbappe and Neymar are made up that they're not going in the European Super League, because Mbappe is a young lad who's already won a World Cup and now wants to go and win everything else, and Neymar is a lad playing for Brazil who wants to go and win a World Cup. So I completely agree. I think transfers are going to be interesting this summer. I think there'll be a lot of big players on the move, and I think this will come back to bite these clubs on the arse, and the only way they're going to be able to compensate for it is by saying to these big players, don't leave and we'll give you 4 times the money that you're on now. And ultimately,
and it's just money again, isn't it? It's just money driven.
That's it. That's all it is. It's money driven, and look, whether those players decide to take that or not, I suppose is up to them. I would like to think that the majority of them wouldn't take it, but yeah, a lot of players will be feeling upset now because they haven't been consulted, but they'll be feeling like, what's my next step? And hopefully by next season, Everton will have signed Marcus Rashford, Cristiano Ronaldo,
that
Toni
Neymar
Kroos.
kind of looks alright.
Yeah, Mbappe seemed a bit alright as well, didn't he? Get him in, and
get Richarlison on the phone so that Neymar, and see if he can work anything else.
Exactly, absolutely, mate, absolutely. Just get everyone in. Just come and join Everton. You can all join Everton if you want. But onto a little bit more about Everton's European aspirations then. Obviously, we want to finish in Europe. We need to finish in Europe ultimately, don't we, for transfers and for players coming into the football club. This obviously, again, it's hard to talk about because it throws a spanner in the works, but trying to put this to one side, in order for Everton to improve this squad to become a consistent challenger for Europe, because even if, let's just say, again, what happened last night didn't happen. Even if Everton were to finish in the Europa League this season, mate, we wouldn't be a consistent European club, would we? We'll have finished in it one season because we'll have done all right in the back end of the season. But no one could honestly sit here and say, if Everton finish in the Europa League now, that means you're a consistent team in Europe, because we're not. You'd have to do that over the period of a few seasons. So it's clear Everton needs to improve this squad, and European football is massive for doing that, because ultimately it opens the door for a lot better and wider range of players. That's got to be number one now, hasn't it? It's the target. Even though we all sort of felt like it was thrown out the window after the Spurs game, does this maybe give the players a little bit more of a kick in motivation, as to say, actually, it's not out the window. You still fight for it, even if this all falls to bits and UEFA completely poo themselves and say we're not going to give any punishments out to any of them. Does the sheer thought process that there's an opportunity we could potentially play in the Champions League next season give this Everton team that motivation to push on?
I think it has to, doesn't it, really? Who doesn't want to play in the Champions League?
That's it.
It may be a bit deflated with most big European clubs going, bar Dortmund, Leipzig, Bayern Munich, Paris Saint-Germain, but I think the Champions League will still be a good competition for us to go play, and of course it'll be a good balance of, like I said to my mates before, it's like in between the Champions League now and the Europa League now, it'll be a mix.
Yeah.
But there'll still be some very good sides in there. But to kickstart our project, this was a transitional period this year. I know a lot of our fans like to jump. There's some idiotic fans, in my opinion, who say Carlo out. But this is not his team.
Yeah.
We turned up to Brighton with 2 of his signings, and they were our 2 best players. Imagine what he can do with Europe behind him. Bit more spending, because I think there was talk that he's going to have 100 million. I seen in the Echo not long ago. So we got the Europe behind him. Carlo Ancelotti's a factor in itself.
Yeah.
Many people want to play under Carlo Ancelotti. Young players, old players, players in their prime. There's talk of Kalidou Koulibaly from Napoli, and be interesting to see how this works between clubs who aren't in this so-called Super League. How are they going to negotiate transfers? Do values go up? Do values go down? Can we negotiate a price for Koulibaly if we get your Champions League football, let's say? But taking the Super League out of question, and if you asked me last week, do we need Europe if the likes of Liverpool still fighting for top 6, Chelsea is still in there, West Ham, we still got to, regardless whether we finish it or not. We need the mentality that every game we got to go into is 3 points closer towards Europe, and if we let that mentality drop, you said before, Cam, this squad has been complacent all season. It's the killer. If it wasn't for complacency, it'd be in a top 4 race.
Yeah.
But they need a reason to keep this momentum going now. The draw against Tottenham should sort of uplift their mood of, right, we can go against these teams and trade for trade and possession and have more chances than them. I know Tottenham are dreadful, but they're still a good side. They still got arguably the best striker in the world in the team and one of the best players in the league, and Son. And we kept him quiet. I know Kane scored 2, but can you honestly tell me he done a lot? No, he didn't. He was quiet.
Yeah. And
the fact that we can go against Tottenham and stay undefeated against them all year, they've not beat us once. It should remain confident that we can go and fight for top 6 in the future, but we need to become a regular European side, in my opinion, under Carlo Ancelotti. I think Jamie Carragher said Everton's aim should always be the team that finishes in the top 7, no matter what.
Yeah.
But, as you said, to kickstart the project and take it to that next level, European football's a must.
Yeah. And it's consistency, isn't it? Like Jamie Carragher said, and like I've just said, it's all good finishing in the Europa League in one season. It was great when we finished in there under Roberto Martinez, and it was good when we finished in there under Ronald Koeman, but it wasn't like it was when we finished under there in David Moyes. And what I mean by that is, with David Moyes, you knew we were finishing in Europe every season, year on, year out. With Ronald Koeman and Roberto Martinez, it was one season, and the season after we were absolutely killed. We were awful in the league, and we didn't do very well in Europe either. So no, I agree, the consistency, and it's needed. You're right, for the project and for the future of this football club under Carlo Ancelotti. European football is an absolute necessity, no questions asked, and hopefully we can finish in there next season. If you're enjoying, by the way, please do hit that like button. Big thanks to everybody in the live comments, really appreciate it. If you're new, don't forget to subscribe, leave your thoughts in the YouTube comments if you're watching the YouTube video. Let's talk about Moise Kean then a little bit. There's been a couple of rumoured updates regarding the last sort of week or so, certainly since I last spoke about him. I know you've been on the View from the Bullens, and you're absolutely brilliant podcast. Go and check those out as well. But Moise Kean, again, obviously on loan currently at PSG, who are one of the clubs that have turned down the European Super League so far. Whether they go into it at a later date, we don't know. Firstly, there was a rumour, I think Fabrizio Romano come out maybe a week before last, and said that Everton want to keep Moise Kean. And then Carlo Ancelotti was asked about a question about him in his press conference last week, and he said, basically, we haven't had an offer from PSG. If PSG want to make an offer, then we can sit down and talk. But as far as we're concerned, up to now, Moise Kean will be an Everton player next season. And then the latest was from Fabrizio Romano that Everton will look to sell Moise Kean. I think he said he believes that it could be around 50 million euros for the player. And the player is keen to ultimately to stay in Paris. Now, that doesn't surprise me, to be honest, Taylor. I don't know about yourself, but it doesn't surprise me that Moise Kean wants to continue playing with Neymar and Mbappe, and doesn't want to come back to play with Alex Iwobi and Fabian Delph. That doesn't surprise me. There's a lot of rumours floating about the internet to state that Juventus are interested in bringing Moise Kean back, and there might be a potential bidding war between Juventus and PSG. I mean, overall, what are your thoughts on Moise Kean? Are you disappointed that he could potentially go, or do you sort of think, get him, we'll make a little bit of money on him, and that can be used for transfers in the summer?
It's mixed emotions for me. I'm gutted that he never worked out with the club, because I said on the View from the Bullens yesterday, when we signed him, he wasn't that calibre of one of the best youngsters in the world. He was, you talk about the Fodens, the Ansu Fatis, the Haalands. He was in and around those names.
Yeah.
He scored some important goals for Juventus the year before. And when we signed him, I thought, wow, we've just took Juventus' biggest prospect off them with no buyback clause. But then that's my negative side. But the positive is, Everton are, I think the Ask has talked about it a few times, where on the verge of that Premier League regulation in terms of finance. So we do need to sell some players, and if we can get 50 million out of Moise Kean, then it's going to help us massively this summer, because we can dip into our own finances and we can dip into the money of Moise Kean, and we can combine that together. And you've got a good fee there, plus got back money there that helps the finances. But we kind of want a bidding war. I don't know if you feel the same, but a bidding war is absolutely ideal for us.
Definitely.
If I think Fabrizio also said that PSG don't agree, then Juventus will come in. Or he said Italian clubs, but we all know it's Juventus.
Yeah.
They will swoop in. And it seems like Juventus are very keen to have him, so we can get a bidding war. Who knows, we could get more than 50 million. I think Juventus, I don't know about PSG, but they'll try and use a player swap plus cash deal. But look at that Juventus squad, and some of their players are awful.
Yeah.
I don't look at many of their players and go, I want him on him. They may offer Adrian Rabiot. That's the one I feel like they'd offer for Moise Kean, which I watch Rabiot and I don't know. I don't know with him. I don't know if you've watched much of him yourself, Cam, but
not this season.
He's very Andre Gomez, like, in my opinion.
Great, exactly what we need.
No, not in terms of it's strange. I don't know. He has a lot of mixed reviews. Let's just say.
Would you say he's inconsistent?
He can tend to go missing in games, in my opinion. But whether that's how poor Juventus' midfield is, I don't know. It is a poor midfield, but you know, you look at last year, Moise Kean barely played for us, and you asked me at the end of last season, you go in the summer, you would 100% agree, wouldn't you? Yeah. So it'd be interesting to see how this summer plays. You know, if PSG can win the Champions League, his value drives up even more.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting at home and secretly hoping PSG get a Champions League win here.
Yeah.
Because it's going to help the club massively.
Definitely, me too. And I 100% agree, mate. The way I see it is, I've seen it this way for a long time, to be honest with you. Moise Kean only comes back to Everton on one occasion, and that's when Moise Kean wants to come back to Everton. I believe Everton want Moise Kean. I believe Carlo Ancelotti would like Moise Kean to be a part of this team going forward. I think he'd like him to be a part of the future. I also think Carlo Ancelotti didn't want Moise Kean to go to PSG last summer in the transfer window. I think he wants him to stay at Everton, but the player himself wanted to move away. And fair play to Moise Kean, by the way. He's moved away. I remember sitting here talking about it on a live stream about him going, and I think I laughed and said he's left Everton because he's not happy with the game time he's getting at Everton, but he's joining PSG when he's going to be on the bench for Icardi and Mbappe and Neymar, etc. But he hasn't. He's gone to PSG and he's impressed. He's scored goals. He's helped them in quarterfinals of Champions League. He's been a good addition to that PSG squad, and he's a player that they clearly want to keep. They clearly want to see stay. And in that, I think ultimately, listen, I think the risk is Everton would have an option if Moise Kean turned around and said, yes, I want to come back to Everton. Or let's say for argument's sake, Moise Kean turned around and said, look, I don't really mind, I'll come back to Everton, I'll work hard, I want to play in the Prem, or if you want to sell me, I'll join PSG or Juventus, I'm not bothered. Everton have then got a decision to make there. The easy outcome, you'd say, would be, right, we'll bring him back and let him have a go, bring him back. Carlo wants him to be a part of his team. But then I think that's where Marcel Brands will step in and go, hang on, this player could come back and have another shocking season because he's just not right for the Premier League and his value decreases massively. Or we could sell him now while his value's high because he had a good season on loan and make probably 3 times as much as you would if he come back and had a bad season because his value would just drop. But I don't think it'll get to that because I don't think Moise Kean will have any burning desire to rejoin Everton. I think he wants to either sign for PSG or go and rejoin Juventus and kickstart his career there. And to be fair, as long as we get upwards of 50-60 million for him, my big argument is he's a 20-odd-year-old lad with all of the future ahead of him, his life ahead of him, his footballing future ahead of him. If it was any other 20-year-old lad that was scoring goals in the Champions League and their league, then he'd be worth a lot of money. So it's only right that we demand a lot of money for him, and if that creates a bidding war, then that creates a bidding war, so be it. I'm not really interested as long as we get the money that he's worth. But yeah, I suppose Everton are maybe sort of conceding now, Taylor, that the future for Moise Kean might be that he is sold, and if we do concede that, hopefully we can get the best deal possible. And yeah, it's sort of just one of them, isn't it? It is disappointing and it's frustrating that he didn't work out, but we can't really do much, can we? If a player doesn't want to be here, what more can you do, mate?
Well, rule number 1 with transfers, don't keep a player that doesn't want to be at your club.
Yeah.
It's bad for the morale. I think his brothers also said I don't know if you've seen the comments, but he said that Moise Kean has no desire to return to Everton, and it looks like it's going to be the end for him.
There you go.
It's a shame. It is a shame, but does he start over Calvert-Lewin right now? Does Calvert-Lewin deserve to be dropped? No, not a chance. So
that's it.
Where does he fit? Where does he fit in? I know he can play on the right. I've got it down here. He's played 6 games, right wing for PSG, scoring a few goals. I think 2 goals. Played on the right at the Nou Camp away. So can play there, but would you rather us play Moise Kean at the right wing, who is more of a centre forward? Or do you want to go sign an actual right winger who's fast, direct, get on the ball, create chances? That Moise Kean, no disrespect, but he's not going to be on the same level as an established right winger.
Yeah.
So if we look to sell Kean and use the finances elsewhere on a right back, a centre mid, a right winger, then it's, for me, I don't like saying it, but it's a no-brainer to sell him, which is a shame. But you got to be realistic with this.
I agree. Absolutely, mate. I echo exactly what you said, and I agree completely. Let's get into the live comments then before we do finish up. Dominic says we might see some big players come to Everton. We might do. Harold says, Cameron, if this breakaway truly happens, what impact will this have on Everton, its finances, and a stadium and the stadium plans? I'm going to be honest, Harold. I don't know, mate. I really, really don't know. There's a lot of unanswered questions at the moment surrounding the breakaway. There's a lot of unanswered questions surrounding the clubs and finances and what it means for the Premier League. Will Everton finish in the Champions League next season? Will we finish in no European football? There's a lot of unanswered questions, and that's one of them, to be honest with you. I wish I could sit here and tell you, but I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, the stadium will be alright, and then it not be alright, and I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, it might be a worry, when actually it's not a worry. I just don't know. That's my honest answer. I don't know. I don't suppose you know, Taylor, anything about that?
It's all just a guessing game, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
No one knows for sure. You know, some people will claim they do, but they don't. No one knows. I do think it will affect us financially because the TV right money's going to go. And a lot of clubs in the Premier League make their money off, you know, advertisement and the Sky Sports and all that. And if people pull out the deal and move towards the Super League with their money, I think DAZN are willing to offer $3 billion, something crazy like that, to host the rights. And, you know, you look at other organisations and countries that pump money into the Premier League. If the top 6 aren't in it, Everton will take a hit with finance. So, but as I said, it's just a guessing game. No one knows for certain.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely, I completely agree. And look, ultimately, I don't even those involved sort of know. To be honest with you, I don't think they've got a clue. And to be honest, Bramley-Moore at the moment is in the back of my mind, because I just don't see what football is going to look like in the future, to be honest with you. I'm not going to say football's going to end, because I don't think it will ever end, but I just don't see where football goes from here. I don't see what football is with a new European Super League. I don't see I don't think the players are put up with it. I don't think managers are put up with it. So I think yesterday was a big day for football, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the next couple of weeks or so, because if I'm being honest, I really don't know where the future lies. Everton Azul says, what makes EPL sensational is the fact that it's any given weekend the so-called small team can beat the so-called top teams, and that is what makes EPL so special. I agree, mate. Adams says, I think we'll have a great transfer window. I hope so. Douglas says, with Leicester and Chelsea in the FA Cup final, if things were normal, 8th would qualify for Europa League, I think. Would it? So there you go, even finishing 8th. But we'd have to go into that stupid qualifying.
I don't know how it works, I think the Conference League was meant to happen as well.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that,
everything's thrown up in the works. What does 7th get you? What does 8th? I honestly know. I don't think anyone knows. I don't think the people who organise the competitions have a clue.
That's it. I mean, I'm going to be doing the preview to the Arsenal game in the next couple of days, and I'm just going to say win. I don't really know what we're winning for. I don't know what's on the line. Just go out and win, so we've got something to smile about. Kieran says we should now be looking at players like Tammy Abraham and the other players that can perform against the worst teams, as the quality of the Premier League is going down massively. Dave says yes, Kieran. That's what first came to my mind. What do you think on Tammy Abraham, mate? Would you have him at Everton? Obviously, he seems a little bit out of favour at the moment at Chelsea.
For the transfer fee they're asking, no, not for me. I think he's got a good goal scoring record. I think he's Chelsea's top goal scorer over the last 2-3 seasons, but I've seen a lot of Chelsea fans say they want a lot of money for him because of that. He's still young, he's got a lot left on his contract, and is he just going to come to Everton and he's not going to start every week, is he? Let's be honest. He's not going to bench Calvert-Lewin out of nowhere. Is he willing to downgrade from Chelsea to come to a club where, I don't want to be disrespectful to us, but Chelsea are a better team than Everton in this moment of time? That's just fact. He's not going to downgrade there to be a sort of part-time player at Everton when he can just go to a club like, I think, Aston Villa or Newcastle, something like that. It's perfect for Tammy Abraham, where he could be the main man But then again, they've got Ollie Watkins, to be honest, so I don't know why I've just said Aston Villa. But you know, teams with that
Sorry.
quality, where West Ham, another one,
Yeah.
they don't really score a lot of goals. But I just don't think for the fee they want, Tammy Abraham's the person. I think someone like Ivan Toney would be a better option if we were to look at a striker, or just stay away from 40 million transfers if they're not going to be guaranteed starters, in my opinion.
I agree, mate, to be honest with you. And then you add the European Super League into it, and you think Tammy Abraham might say, I don't want to play in that competition, I want to go. It's all a bit mad, mate. But no, I agree completely. I agree with what you said. I'd love Ivan Toney. I think he's brilliant. Jedi says, good riddance to the Big Six. We talked about the top six buys for years, but not manufactured. Big Nod says, Super League, Super Greed League, let them go. But it must be made clear to the clubs, the players and the managers you've finished and not welcome back to the domestic league when it all goes tits up. Handel says, Moise Kean style does not suit Premier League. He doesn't hustle enough. Everton must sell him. Philip says, if we can make a swift 30 million, it's a no-brainer. Big Nod says, sell for a profit. I agree. And Gord says, in my opinion, I'd want a salary cap in the EFL, but just the check and balances, like Gary Neville said, would be best. And Douglas says, I don't care who Everton play, I'll still be a Goodison or Bramley-Moore. Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. Well, I think it's a good place to sort of round it up there then, Taylor. Massive thanks for coming on. Look, Taylor's been a brilliant guest. Looking forward to getting him on in the future. Again, go and check out his Twitter. Drop him a follow on Twitter down below. Really do appreciate you coming on, mate. Is there anything you want to talk about before we finish up? Any topics we haven't touched on today that you want to go over before we finish up?
No, I'm all good, but I just want to let know everyone in the comments who's been watching, don't let the greed of these businessmen ruin your love for football. Don't let them take your voice away from it. You're here to love your club. Don't let your opinion be taken away from you by money. You know, we're here to love Everton, and let's hope for the best and some success under Carlo Ancelotti.
Absolutely, and echo exactly what Taylor's just said then. Don't let these greedy businessmen who don't know football, haven't got a clue about football, don't know what it's like to be a football fan, don't let them take away your love for the game. We have to fight to stop this Super League. We have to fight to, basically just to get these people who don't have any interest in fans or football itself, just only interested in money. We have to fight to get them out of football, because ultimately they're ruining it. And we also have to really clamp down on the money in football now, because it's that's got us to this situation. But yeah, completely agree with Taylor. Don't forget to check out Taylor in the description down below. Follow him on Twitter. Brilliant guest. Obviously been on A View from the Bullens a couple of times as well. Brilliant podcast, so go and check him out over there. Looking forward to having him on again in the future. But anyway, yeah, look, we'll finish it up there then. If you have enjoyed this one, please do hit that like button. We did do a little bit more of an emotional rant live stream a bit earlier on, talking about the European Super League. If you want to check that out, you can do as well. We will have a game review to the Spurs game out at some point. It's going to be difficult to talk about footy at the moment because it's all up in the air, but we will try and talk about that game. Hopefully that'll be up at some point today. If you've enjoyed this one, please do hit that like button. Dominic says we should go for Martinez. I assume you're talking about Latoro. Look, if he wants to leave Inter, then I'd happily take him. I don't think he'd come to Everton. No. Jedi says, when's Gbamin back? We don't know. End of the season, next season. And Jedi also says, thanks, guys. Thank you very much. There we go. UEFA confirms Swiss model Champions League format for 2024. Yeah, I've seen the reformat.
36 teams or something.
Yeah.
Something like that.
So we'll probably be in that anyway. Well, I say we'll probably be in it. We'll probably bottle out of that anyway. So that's my biggest.
Will finish above us.
That's it. That's my biggest worry with this, mate. Is when I read up and it was like, yeah, Everton are in a Champions League place at the moment. If those clubs are kicked out, I wasn't like, oh my god, Everton are going to finish the Champions League. I thought, oh my god, when we bottle this, it's going to be even more embarrassing. And it is a when, because it's just what Everton do. But no, hopefully under Carlo that changes. God says about Daryl DK, looks like a really good young player. I think he's currently on loan at Barnsley at the moment. But anyway, we're going to finish it up there then. Big thanks to everybody in the live comments. Really do appreciate it. If you've enjoyed the stream, please do hit that like button. Big thanks to everybody for getting involved. If you're watching a YouTube video, leave your thoughts in the comments. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe as well. Let us know your thoughts on everything that was spoken about and how this new Super League crap could affect Everton's European hopes. And let us know what you think on it as well. Big thanks for watching. Massive thanks for Taylor for joining us. Check out him in the description down below. Check out his Twitter. Go and follow him. And yeah, we'll see you soon on the Mighty Blues.